Oh, what was the reason behind Ashley and your marriage? She's a really skilled rock truck driver, I see. That has to be ringed. I adore it. Take a look at that. Put an end to it. It's crazy. Put an end to it. What? Put an end to it. I get what you're attempting. Take action. No. Why? Not at all. We all watched Parker Schnabel label his split with Ashley Youle his one major failure and blame it on himself. He claimed he didn't prioritize her. Let's face it, the story was a well-planned defense. Why? For what reason? So I said, what? It isn't taking place. Why? All right, cuz. The actual cause of their breakup was much more painful. Beneath a contract of quiet that Ashley is now willing to violate, away from the cameras. The Golden Lie, the storyline of Parker Schnabel and Ashley Youle, set against the untamed landscape of the Yukon, resembled a contemporary fairy tale for 2 complete seasons. She was the lively, vivacious Australian veterinary nurse who captured his heart, and he was the youthful, driven mining genius. It seemed fated that they would meet in Australia in 2016. Fans were immediately enthralled when Parker asked her to spend a summer of adventure with him in the Klondike. There was more to it than romanticism. It was a collaboration. But neither of them anticipated the test that was about to be put to what they had built together. So, who is this Parker? She is my sister. We met in Australia, I see. Oh, fancy, yes, good. Ashley wasn't merely a supporting character. She immediately plunged into the tumultuous, risky world of gold mining. She demonstrated that she was more than just the boss's girlfriend. By working in the gold room with Chris Duet, her cheerful disposition was the ideal balance to Parker's frequently demanding and intense demeanor. He even went so far as to describe her perfect for me and an awesome person. Her presence seemed to smooth his hard edges, giving the group as a whole a new dynamic. She immediately gained the team's respect and the admiration of millions of viewers due to her toughness, ability, and diligence. They were the ultimate power couple on screen. Parker's desire appeared to be fueled by Ashley's backing, and the two of them oversaw some of his most prosperous seasons. Together, they experienced both the victories of heavy gold weights and the setbacks of malfunctioning equipment. Their bond, formed in the grit and dirt of the Klondike, appeared to be indestructible from the outside. The story was clear-cut and straightforward. A diligent man discovered a lady who could not only comprehend his environment, but also flourish in it. However, a group of producers work behind every television program. Additionally, a common conspiracy theory regarding Gold Rush holds that many of the individual plots are purposefully crafted, if not deliberately created, for dramatic effect. Parker approached me and asked if I could drive a truck to help. She will despise me at the end of this. I have something really enjoyable for you to do, darling. Paul Truck. Well, would you like to come on an adventure in the Yukon? 800 times a week. Do this. A tailored version of their lives, a highlight reel of amusing moments and encouraging looks, was presented to viewers. The problem is that this beautiful picture was only a front, a meticulously crafted narrative that concealed the profound, widening fissures in its foundation. The real cost of Parker's preoccupation, which went much beyond basic neglect, was hidden from the cameras. In actuality, the record-breaking goal totals and beaming grins were concealing a far more sinister reality, one that would end in a horrifying encounter away from the film crew's prying eyes. The story that occurred is different from the one that everyone is familiar with. Despite the show's meticulous editing, hints of disaster started to appear, little cracks in an ostensibly flawless partnership. Observant fans picked up on tense occasions. The massive kiss competition was the most talked about incident. The crew made a lighthearted wager to convince Parker and Ashley to share a kiss on video. Parker was clearly irritated, but Ashley appeared to comply, attempting to assist the cameraman in capturing the event. He put an end to the endeavor, since he was determined to keep their love a secret. Even while some people thought it was just a small, unpleasant moment, it was a clear indication of the underlying relationship. Parker's personal life, including Ashley's feelings, had to take a back seat as his professional life and public persona took precedence. Privacy wasn't the only issue here. It has to do with control. Parker seemed to struggle with any part of his life that he couldn't control with the same iron fist. And he had complete control over the mindset, the personnel, and the entire organization. Although his demanding leadership style and perfectionist tendencies were hailed as the secret to his success, they probably caused him a great deal of stress in his personal life. Although mining typically requires long hours, Parker's motivation was exceptional. There wasn't much oxygen left for anything or anyone else in the all-consuming fire. Ashley was frequently left waiting for a man who seldom clocked out as a result of this unrelenting pursuit. Another conspiracy theory comes into play here, that the strain was actively promoted by the producers, who were also aware of it. According to the hypothesis, they unintentionally exacerbated the problems that were destroying Parker's relationship by driving him to the edge for the benefit of the show. Watching the drama of a stressed-out Parker is entertaining. In the actual world, however, the result was a spouse who was pushed to the limit. Parker eventually acknowledged that his carelessness was more than a result of his job. It was a sign of a far more serious imbalance between them. Ashley was getting weary of attempting to rectify this imbalance. But the private breach that was going to happen was far worse than these public ones. That would be great if it were just between her and me and not broadcast on national television. In an attempt to mend the growing distance between them, Parker organized a vacation to compensate for a season of hard work and apparent indifference. He marketed it as an opportunity to reconnect away from the muck and machines, a romantic getaway. He picked a destination of breathtaking beauty and complete seclusion, a little nameless island off the Australian coast that is only known to a select few residents for its dangerous currents and untamed wild interior. Their paradise was supposed to be this island. Rather, it would serve as the backdrop for the revelation that would rock the world. In a wide ocean of blue, the island was a speck of green. Time appeared to have forgotten this spot. Not only were there no tour guides or resorts, but there was also no dependable cell service. The promise of unbroken time together, a little rented boat, and just the two of them. The island itself was untamed and stunning, with beaches of unfathomably white sand, volcanic granite formations, and thick jungle-like flora. They were cautioned by local fishermen about its erratic weather and the confusing interior, where trails vanished into a maze of weird, twisted trees, because the wind blowing through the volcanic rocks frequently sounded like faint, ghostly voices. They called it the Isle of Whispers. It was an enchanted and profoundly unnerving environment. It was all they had hoped for on the first day. They felt the tremendous pressure of the Klondike subside as they swam in secret coves, explored the beach. Although the journey was going well, their utopia became a jail on the second day. Their small boat's motor flickered and failed as they were exploring an isolated bay. The basic sputtering motor was too weak for Parker, the man who could diagnose and repair any issue with a $1 million wash plant. Their unusable boat was pulled toward a row of sharp, submerged rocks as the tide started to shift. This is the origin of the painful secret. Ashley didn't see the self-assured leader she had seen on TV as Parker Schnabel on that island. He trembled as their little boat drifted dangerously nearer to the rocks. A visceral, frantic terror took the place of the composed, commanding demeanor. He was irate and furious, and worst of all, he betrayed her. He held her responsible for diverting his attention, for wanting to investigate that particular bay, for everything he could hold on to. Could you all please back off? Now his harsh, terrified accusations took the place of the island's whispers. Moments before it would have been smashed to bits. They were able to beach the boat on a narrow strip of sand. They were stuck, though. They were left on their own for 2 days and 2 nights, with little supplies and no way to phone for assistance. Ashley seen a side of Parker during that period that had never been seen on camera. He wasn't a hero. He was not a leader. He was a young man who was afraid of becoming unruly. And he turned egotistical and vicious in his fear. Being stranded wasn't the only trauma. His initial reaction was to blame her for his own anxiety, because of the emotional desolation that comes from being stuck with someone who, in a serious crisis, demonstrated this to her. While the man she loved paced the beach, driven by his own panic, she had to be the one who kept them calm and strong. rationing their water and attempting to keep their spirits up. The unwritten agreement, the heavy secret she would bring back to civilization, was what actually transpired over those 48 hours. The precise words that were spoken, and the significant change in their dynamic. Their stranding was horrifying, and their rescue was equally unceremoniously done. A nearby fishing boat, traversing the perilous waters, saw their beached boats glitter, and stopped by to have a look. It was a huge, but hollow, relief. Most of the journey back to the mainland was quiet. The spot between them was haunted by the phantom of Paradise Island. No matter how much physical danger they had encountered, the mental harm was far worse. Ashley was certain that something was irreparably broken, and it made her shiver. Hey, slow down, music. When they returned to reality, the incident was promptly forgotten. At this point, the show's involvement becomes into a contentious issue inside insider circles. According to the conspiracy idea, a producer grasped the possible consequences after learning about the off-the-grid scenario. His brand might be harmed by a narrative about the top star of the program having a breakdown and being saved. It was not part of the story of the hardy, resourceful mining king. A contract was thus established, a tacit pact to conceal the island's history. Parker was probably more than happy to acquiesce, because he was so ashamed and needed to keep up his public persona. On his own terms, he would accept responsibility for the breakup. He would portray it as a result of his work ethic and a failure to set priorities. He was portrayed as a tragic person who gave up love for ambition in this plausible, almost noble confession. The story was far more pristine than the reality. The official excuse that he didn't prioritize her turned out to be the ideal pretext. It was vague enough to conceal the unpleasant, traumatic specifics of what really occurred, yet true enough to be credible. The agreement felt like a cage to Ashley. She complied, whether due to shock, a residual sense of devotion, or even pressure from those with a stake in keeping the show and its star safe. So she said nothing. Just as Parker had attempted to control everything else, she allowed him to dictate the story of their separation. She went back to Australia, and by the time Gold Rush Season 9 premiered in 2018, she had completely disappeared. Fans were taken aback by her abrupt absence, and Parker's solemn, remorseful address was the official and last word. She vanished from the narrative once he accepted the failure, taking the island's secret with her. However, secrets, particularly painful ones, have a tendency of reverberating over time and refusing to be permanently buried. As his girlfriend, Parker doesn't tolerate me. He simply treats me like any other crew member while we're working. That's how I like it. We have things to do. Following the island tragedy, Parker Schnabel's life appeared to unfold according to the plan in the years that followed. He plunged further into his labor, growing his mining business and amassing ever higher gold totals. In public, he continued to be the eligible bachelor who was obsessed with his job. However, it appeared that the lessons he said he had gained from his connection with Ashley had a lasting impact. He would acknowledge that he failed her in interviews, reflecting on his shortcomings with a practiced air of self-awareness. However, with the island's information at hand, this remorse has a new significance. It was more than remorse for not spending more time with her. It was the blazing guilt of his actions when everything went wrong. It also says a lot about his later love life, or lack thereof. Of course, there were rumors. He was photographed with another gold miner, Sheena Cowell, which led to a lot of conjecture. However, it never moved. The connection vanished as fast as it had come. Later, in 2020, he was spotted with another woman, a British mystery woman named Sheena. Once more, the rumors produced no hard evidence. These links remained little more than rumors, because neither Parker nor the women ever verified anything. His co-star on Gold Rush, Parker's Trail, Australian gold prospector Tyler Mahoney, was the subject of the most prominent rumored romance. There was no denying their on-screen chemistry. They were clearly respectful of one another, and had a similar ambition and enthusiasm. Supporters believed they were a match made in heaven. However, both have adamantly and repeatedly denied having a personal relationship, maintaining that their relationship is solely professional. Is Parker's reluctance to commit to another major public relationship because he fears being put to the test once more? A fear that the terrible side Ashley witnessed on the island would resurface under duress? In actuality, his reluctance to commit could not be about setting work as a top priority. It might be a protective mechanism, a barrier put up to keep him and any possible mate safe from experiencing that terrible character failure again. Because I'm a grouchy person, and because I made the mistake of telling her that I don't like truck drivers in general, I was a little concerned about her being up here. This gives rise to new conspiracy ideas that the program is protecting him at all costs. Perhaps in order to keep Parker from being in a situation where his meticulously maintained image could once more be endangered. Any suggestion of a fresh romance is either swiftly put down or never permitted to grow on camera. The gold is predictable, so he stays single and concentrates entirely on his business. Gold is not a judge. It doesn't require emotional assistance. On an isolated island, it doesn't witness your lowest point. He was the only one who told the story for years. However, there was still more to that narrative. Years went by. Ashley Youle started over. In Australia, far from the mud and the cameras of the Yukon, she resumed her work as a veterinary nurse. Away from the shadow of the gold rush, she found security and happiness. The unwritten agreement held for a long time. She let the world believe the straightforward tale of a romance that failed due to work-related stress. Knowing the truth was far more nuanced and intimate, she allowed Parker to bear the public burden of a failed relationship. The burden of keeping the secret weighed heavily on her, a low hum of trauma that pervaded every aspect of her new life. Her narrative makes us reevaluate what we see on reality television. What else are they not revealing us if this was concealed? For more, like and subscribe.